Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, my name is Monica, and in this occasion, I will tell you about the paper under the title is L2 Motivation by Willy A. Renandia of Nanyang Technological University. Okay, let's the first I will tell you about introduction. In the second language learning or L2 context, teachers are well aware that motivation is key to L2 development. They know that students with higher motivation are likely to be more successful than those with lower motivation. Their views are sourced by L2 motivation experts and research. This paper discussed that what the way to the how of motivation in L2 learning. The central argument of the paper is that motivation is both a student's and teacher's problem, and that both will need to work towards maintaining a sufficiently high level of motivation in the L2 learning process. However, experience and repeated observations seem to indicate that the teachers should perhaps play a more central role in initiating and sustaining their students' motivation. The paper suggests a principled approach to motivation by examining 5 key factors that can potentially make classroom learning more engaging and motivating. And next, what is motivation? The definition of motivation above is quite straightforward to understand, but when we take it one step further and ask people about the sources of students' motivation, we are likely to have a wide range of answers. First, students' perceptions about the utility of the target language beyond the classroom, and next, their attitude toward that target language, and next, their sense of competence in the target language. Then, their perception about the enjoyment level of the lesson, their perception of the value of the language lesson, their classroom learning environments, their teachers' personality and teaching effectiveness. Students tend to have higher motivation if their teacher is warm, humorous, and caring, and who can tell well. And then, next question. What is motivation important? Motivation is perhaps the single most important factor affecting the outcome of L2 learning. The answer seems to depend on whether we see motivation as a fixed or dynamic construct. When we see motivation as a fixed entity, we simply describe our students as being either motivated or unmotivated. In other words, we see motivation to learn as being essentially a student's problem. The students are responsible for their own motivation, and there is not much we can do to change it. When motivation is seen as a teacher problem, we acknowledge that there are many classroom specific factors that the teacher can exploit in order to foster students' motivation. This, however, is not to say that students have little or no responsibility to work on their motivation levels. They do, because ultimately motivation is the responsibility of the individual students. Then next, what is motivation important? Research on motivation tells us that the classroom environment, our behavior and actions in the classroom, our relationship with the student, the way we teach in class, and how we structure our lessons, and the way we assess our students all have huge implications on students' motivation. These classroom specific factors are referred to as the 5 T's of motivation, or teacher, teaching methodology, text, task, and test. T1, the teacher. At the heart of the diagram above 5 is the teacher, who plays an important role in ensuring that students are motivated and continue to be committed in their learning throughout the tenure of their studies. Almost everything about the teacher, including his or her personal characteristics, can have an influence on students' motivation. The first, good teachers are enthusiastic, and good teachers are warm and friendly. Next, good teachers are caring. Okay, and the second, T2, teaching methodology, motivating teaching or knowledge about different kinds of teaching methods. But more importantly, they have deep understanding about how these methods work with different groups or learners in different learning contexts. They are not dogmatic about certain kinds of methods and do not subscribe to a single method. They believe that there is no single best method that will work with every group of students. Next, third, T3, the text. The text here refers to language teaching materials or print and electronic, oral and written, that teachers use in the language classroom, including course books and their accompanying research materials. Example, CD and DVD, teachers developed materials or multimodal materials from the internet, and any other supplementary materials. And fourth, T4, the text. Language, touch, and activities serve pedagogical purposes, but unfortunately, not all of them are perceived to be useful, interesting, and engaging by the students. And the last, T5, the test. And oft heard complaint from teachers is that our education system tends to give too much attention to testing and examination. Our teaching, they say, is often overshadowed or even dictated by test and examination. So the concluding is, when students lack motivation is learning English, it is very easy to put the blame on the students. However, blaming them for their low motivation or giving them a daily lecture about the importance of motivation to learn English may not be the most productive way to enhance students' motivation. In this paper, I have argued that teachers should look inward, reflect on classroom-specific factors that are within their research and expertise, and take on a large responsibility where students' motivation is concurrent. The key of increasing student motivation lies with the teacher. T1, teacher, his or her nurturing and caring personality, his or her skills in teaching and ability to deliver lesson in the most engaging manner. T2, teaching methodology, his or her skills is selecting and using teaching materials. And T3, text, his or her skills in designing interesting and challenging text. And T4, text, and his and her creativity in using more learning and learn-friendly assessment procedures. T5, test. It is the skillful and effective use of available instructional resource that keeps students stimulated and engaged throughout the tenure of their studies. So I think that's all for this occasion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.